Hi everyone. Let's see. Hi everyone. On behalf of Tavella 4 Homes, I would like to welcome you to our very first live baking session. My name is Camila and I'm a certified Wilton instructor. And today what we are going to do is I'm going to show you how to bake a really nice bundt cake together with lots of tips and tricks, okay? Now, before we start, we are going to give some of our viewers some time to just join in. And while we're doing that, hi guys. Hi Italia, hi Joyce. I will just explain what we are going to do today, okay? Hi everyone. Now this is our very first video, so please bear with us if we do make any mistakes, okay? Nice. Now, before you start baking anything, you should have your ingredients at room temperature. It's very important because you don't want to add cold eggs to butter or cold milk to butter. So everything should be at room temperature. Now, I have pre-measured my ingredients. However, I will tell you and explain to you how you do that. Okay? Now, first thing that you do is you preheat your oven. And the reason for doing that is most ovens will take at least 12 to 15 minutes to preheat. Cakes normally take 5 minutes to 10 minutes to mix. You don't want to mix your cake and then have, oh, I forgot to preheat my oven, and then you have your cake sitting outside. Okay, so I have already preheated my oven, and this cake that we are baking is going to be baked at 325 degrees or 165 degrees Celsius. Now, guys, as much as I would love to answer your questions, I will try to answer them at the end of the video. Okay, please jot down any little questions that you may have. Now, first thing, have a scale. I know a lot of you like to measure in cups, but not every cup carries the same size. You're always more accurate by using a scale. Now, when you use a scale, the first thing that you do, you pop your dish on, you zero. If you don't zero, you're going to be off with your weight, all right? Second thing, you need to have proper measuring cups. Not the cup that you're drinking your coffee in, and proper measuring spoons. If I say 1 tablespoon, it's not the one that you're eating with, okay? So, proper equipment. Now, when you invest in good quality equipment, you have it for a lifetime, okay? So don't be scared in buying something that's a little bit more costly, because you're not going to buy it every week. So now I see I have a lot more people joining in. Thank you viewers for coming. Now for the people who have decided to bake along with me, feel free. Now what we did is we have posted the recipe before online, but we have not posted the steps. So for all of you who are deciding to bake along with me, we are going to start now. Okay, now this recipe is quite easy. You can mix it with a stand mixer, and I'm using my trusty KitchenAid that I've been using for years. You can mix it with hand. You can also use a handheld mixer. My mixing bowl. Here I have 400 grams of granulated sugar. You can also use a caster sugar. You can also mix this recipe with soft brown sugar as well as this half and half. Okay, brown sugar tends to give your product a really nice taste and flavor. Okay, and as I said, I have already weighed this. My sugar goes in. Now we're going to use oil. Another thing, a lot of people ask, what kind of oil should we be baking in? I am using canola oil. However, you can use corn oil, you can use safflower oil. Try to use something that doesn't leave an aftertaste. For instance, don't use olive oil unless your recipe states you want to use olive oil in it, okay? And I need 1 cup and a quarter. So 1 cup. Now your 1 cup goes all the way up. And 1/4. I'm a little bit shaky here. Let's see. I have my little helper on the side of me. Lynn, say hi to Lynn. And we pop this back on. Oops. You know, you always get nervous doing a video for the first time in your life. And we're using the paddle, not the whisk. Most of my cakes, I use the paddle. I would use the whisk if I'm whisking egg whites, so I can get volume. However, we're using the paddle. Now, some of you may not, if you have a KitchenAid, you may not have this particular paddle, okay? My KitchenAid came with the metal paddle. However, you can get this paddle separately, purchase it separately. What this does, instead of you stopping and scraping all the time, this helps scraping your bowl for you. So, less time. We pop this one on. Now guys, some of you are saying you didn't see the recipe online. The recipe was posted on our stories. However, we will post the entire recipe. You can just DM us, but we will post the entire recipe, okay? I'm starting on number 1. Now, this is not going to dissolve, it's not going to melt, it's not butter and sugar that we're making. It's oil and sugar. This recipe is an oil-based recipe. So just about 30 seconds and we just let it mix in. Now we're going to use our eggs, large eggs. Now some people ask me in my classes, how do you know it's a large egg, Miss Camila? Large eggs are normally 60 grams and above. When you go to the supermarket, it's written on the packaging. You would see large, medium, small. So I'm using large eggs, and these are roughly around 64 grams. Now, I always crack my eggs separately rather than, I'm not that expertise as yet. However, because one, I might get shells in there. Also, I might have a bad egg and I don't know. So I always prefer to crack separately. See, and we did get a shell in here. See what I meant? Pop it out. No shells in the cake. Let's see if we get that one out. And nice. Now, with my mixer on speed number 1, we're going to pop 1 egg in. Before you add your egg, your second egg, make sure that this one is mixed in nicely. And you can tell by just looking at the egg. The color of the egg will change from dark yellow to a lighter shade of yellow. Oops, why am I getting shells? I think I'm so nervous, I'm hitting the eggs too softly. Egg number 2. So for those of us who just joined in, we are making an apple walnut cake. And in here I have sugar, oil, and 2 of my 3 eggs. Pop it in. And we're just going to mix this for 2 minutes. And we clean up as we go along. Nobody likes a messy kitchen, no? Now, while this mixture is mixing, I am going to sift my flour. So here now I have my dry ingredients. So this is my flour here. Now our recipe states 3.5 ounces or 3 cups of flour. If you want this in grams, it's 380 grams of all-purpose flour. Any all-purpose flour will do fine. I have my salt. And now I did measure out my baking soda. We're not using baking powder, but I want to show you how to do that. Now I know some of you take the and you put it like this and you say 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Okay, nope, that's not correct. You measure out and you level your spoon. 1 and 1/4, the smallest one. Oops, that's 1/8. See, always have to double check. And again, we level out. Now we are going to sift. If you don't have one of these, this is one of my favorite things to use in my classes. You can use a regular sifter, it's fine, but when you see I use this, you'll be like, oh, I want one too. So here, for those who are baking along with us, we have our flour, our baking powder, and our salt. Now try to get all your ingredients in the sifter and not on the table. And you will notice I am still mixing my eggs and sugar, but I have it on the lowest speed. And there we go. A little bit still on the table, but that's fine. The cover goes back on. Again, let's just give it a little wipe. And you just turn. Now, if you're a left-hander, you can just switch just to the other side and turn. So it's easy. It's one of the few things in the baking industry that works for both left-handers and right-handers. And we pop it back in our bowl. Again, try to get it in your bowls, not on your table. And we sift. It's raining flour. Just give it a little tap, make sure everything comes out. Yes, someone is asking if I used baking soda. Yes, I did use baking soda. Okay. Now my flour is here. I'm just going to give it just a little whisk again. Because sometimes what happens is the salt remains in the sifter the last. So I just give it a little whisk again, just before I start adding it to my mixture. Now, so my mixture is finished mixing, and you will know when it's done because you will see the color of the batter changes from a really bright yellow to a really light yellow just by mixing the egg yolks. Again, we're going to start on speed number 1. And I'm going to put my ingredients in bit by bit. Try not to just dump all the flour in, okay? You want to put a bit in, let it mix in, then add another bit. There's no liquid in this cake because we're using all that yummy apples to make it moist. Oops. Again. And we just have a little bit more again. it in. Let's just pop the rest in. Now when you do this, what happens is that some of it gets onto the top of your paddle. Thank you, Lynn. So I'm going to stop now, scrape down the side of my bowls. Any flour that I may have on my paddle, I'm just going to take it out. Scrape down the sides and the bottom of the bowl. Now this batter is quite thick, so you want to use a really good spatula, not one that's too soft. It's not a regular cake, you know, the creaming method. So you might feel that it feels like it's a little bit gooey. Don't worry about it, it's fine. Okay. So now I'm taking my speed to speed number 2 on medium for about 2 minutes. I like to clean up as I work. Once you see this is mixed in nicely, you just stop. Now my mixer is very strong, so I may not need to do 2 minutes. If you have a mixer that's not powerful, feel free to do a little extra 30 seconds, okay? Now we're going to add vanilla. You can use dark vanilla, you can use light vanilla, however you can also use vanilla powder. And we need 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Now a lot of the stuff that you see I'm using today is available at our Tavola shop, and they're really easy to find. However, you can substitute the vanilla with what you have. No need to think that I have to use this and I have to use that. Okay, baking is fun, don't get stressed out. And we stop. Now I have chopped walnuts and I have apples. So this is this is more than 3 cups. I'm not going to be using all of it. And we want the apples to be chopped up nice and small. Now you can use any choice of apple that you want. I'm using Gala and Granny Smith, so I have a blend of 2 types of apples. However, feel free to use any apples that you would like to use. Now your apples should be peeled and chopped small. If you peel apples, what happens when you leave them sitting there, they tend to go discolored. So what you can do is use a little bit of lemon juice, toss it about a little, and they will not go dark brown or change color. Okay, it will not affect the taste of your cake. You're not going to put a whole cup of lemon juice in it, just a little bit. Okay, and I'm using walnuts today. However, you can use pecans if you like. Pecans is really good with it, but I love how apple and walnuts go together. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick when you're coring the center of the apple. I've washed my apple already. Now, you should peel your apples, but I'm not going to peel this one. I'm just going to show you how to take the center out. Oh, I looked for the smallest knife. You cut it down the center. And I'm using my daughter's little chopping board. She loves to cook in the kitchen with her dad. And you use, instead of taking the knife and trying to struggling to take this out, you use a lemon boiler. Okay, just take it out, press it in, scrape it out, and there you have all the seeds out without any fuss and stress. Okay guys, so this is a neat little trick you can do. Now we're going to add our apples first, and then we're going to add our walnuts last. Okay, now you can add this by hand by just stirring it in. However, I'm using my trusty mixer here, but I'm using speed number 1 to do this step. I don't want to crush my apples. Now if you don't chop your apples and you're in a rush, you can also grate it, but use the really large size of a grater. I'm just gonna pour some in. Okay, and that should be enough. What I did is I cut 3 apples. Roughly, you need 2.5 apples to give you 3 cups of apples. Okay, and now I'm going to toss my nuts in. It's not necessary for me to add flour to this one. It's not going to sink to the bottom. Okay. And once it's mixed in, we stop. Now the next step is your pans. I'm using a Bundt pan. A lot of people are scared to use a Bundt pan because they say the cakes stick in it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is show you how to properly prep your Bundt pans before you start baking. And I'm using one of our Nordic way pans from our shop. This is a 12-quart pan. However, this cake can also be baked in a 10-quart, where you use 10 cups. Okay, it's not going to be filled all the way to the top, but you will get a nice size cake. So this is my Bundt pan, nice and dry. Make sure it's nice and dry. And I am not going to use butter and flour, because what happens is sometimes, because of all these different little nooks and crannies, you can't get your brush to go into all of these. Some of the pans are very, very detailed, and a brush will not get into there, thus your cake sticking. Now, what I use is something called cake release spray. You can also use the spray that has the flour in it, or I'll show you another what you can do. Shake the spray first. Always shake, especially if you're using one that contains flour. You always shake it. You do not want to hold here. Don't spray like this, okay? Because then you're going to have too much in here. So at a distance, you spray. Make sure you get everything in. And if you're still not sure, you can toss some flour in here, shake it around, remove the excess. However, I have been using this spray for a long time with my Bundt pans, and I've never had any of my cakes sticking. Okay? So this is our Bundt pan. Now we're going to take the mixer off, take all our stuff on, and I'm going to show you, oh, stop there. And I'm going to show you what my cake looks like, what my batter looks like. Let's scrape it all out. And this is my mixture. See? Nice and soft. You could add a bit of spices in this cake if you want to spice it up a little bit more. You can add a bit of nutmeg, you can add a bit of cinnamon. Cinnamon is my go-to spice. I love to add cinnamon. Cinnamon and apple pairs very, very well. And we are going to spoon this into here. Now, you can do it like this. You can spoon it in, but you want to do it in such a way that it's even. Okay, let's try doing it like this. Let's see, you want to make sure you get all of them out. Now, if you want to bake this recipe in the form of cupcakes, you can also do that. You can also use a regular baking pan. Okay, trying to get all of it out here. Sorry if I'm blocking you guys. And there we go. Let's put this one here. Nice. You want to make sure that it's nice and even. Okay. Just give it a light tap on the table. shake it a little, and this is to settle the cake and remove any air bubbles that's trapped inside. And we are going to pop it in the oven at 325 degrees, and I'm going to discuss a little bit about the oven for you guys as I pop this one in. Okay, so my oven is already preheated, and I'm going to just pop this in quickly. Go. I put my timer on. This cake in this Bundt pan will take roughly an hour and 10 minutes to bake. And it's always a good idea to time your cakes. Okay, so do you know. However, if you're going to bake this into 2 pans, because you're separating it, of course it will take less time. If you're baking it into cupcakes, it might take 20 to 25 minutes to bake, because you've added lots of apples and you've added lots of nuts. When that nut gets all heated in there, it's going to release oils, so the cakes will take a little bit longer. Okay, now I have lots of questions in my class about the oven temperature and the type of oven. I'm using an electric oven. However, if you are using a gas oven, you need to bake at the middle. Don't take it to the bottom, because all that heat is there, and what happens is that you will burn your cake. Okay, so if you're baking with a gas oven, the temperature stays the same and you bake in the middle. Now, how do you know if your temperature is correct? I always bake with an oven thermometer, no matter what I'm doing. Even if I've baked my cakes 100 times and I know, okay, I have an idea of the time, I always use this. How you use this, it goes into your oven before you put it on. Okay? Give your oven at least 10 or 15 minutes to preheat. Everyone's oven is different. After, you check. If your temperature corresponds with what you have on your recipe, then you're good to go. Lucky you, you have a perfect oven. However, if you have to adjust it, give it 5 minutes to adjust higher or even to adjust lower. An oven temperature is utmost important when you're baking. Okay? Now, while our cake is baking, let's see if we have any questions, and maybe I can answer maybe 1 or 2 questions before I start the next step, because we are going to do a caramel frosting that we're going to put onto this cake. Okay? Yes, I am making an apple and walnut bundt cake. Let's see if I can see any more questions. Apple quantities, we use 3 cups of apples. Yes, we will post the recipe. 3 cups of apples is roughly 2.5 apples, and you can choose any type of apples that you want. It's your choice. Some apples are crisp and people like that crisp taste. However, some are a little bit more sandy and softer, and some people like that taste. So it's your choice. I use the mixture of 2 types of apples. I use Granny Smith and I use Gala apples. Okay? Now, I am going to show you now how I'm going to make the frosting for the cake. It's very, very easy. However, you don't have to do this frosting. You can even do something that's more simple. You can just add a little glaze to it. You can use some apricot jam, warm it in the oven, or warm it in your microwave, strain it, brush it on the cake, because the cake is loaded with flavors. No need to put too much things onto it. Okay? So let me just get ready for a mixture here. Okay. Thank you, Lynn. Lynn is my trusted helper. Okay, so here, let me glance at my recipe quickly. We have powdered sugar, unsalted butter. I always use unsalted butter when I'm using anything, because today I'm using a bit of salted caramel. We're using vanilla extract or vanilla powder, whichever one you want. We're using a caramel topping. Now, no need to go making caramel. You can just buy any caramel topping that's in the supermarket, and this is the one I'm using today. Okay? This one tastes really good. I get this one at the Spinny supermarket. And we are using a bit of milk and some nuts for the ganache. So, 2 cups of sugar is roughly around 240 grams of powdered sugar. Okay, you will want to sift it so you don't have to keep mixing and mixing to try to break up all these lumps that you get into it. Okay, I'm just gonna wash my hands quickly, guys. Feels a little bit sticky. Thank you, Lynn. So good when you have someone to assist you. So here I have my powdered sugar. Powdered sugar is the same as confectioner's sugar or icing sugar, okay? It's not caster sugar. And I have my butter. So 2 tablespoons of butter, it's roughly around 28-29 grams of butter. And I'm using unsalted. You can use salted also, okay? And I'm using butter, not margarine. This is a leopard butter, okay? First thing we do is we are going to mix this in. Now you can also use your mixer to do this, but it's not necessary. It's just a little bit of topping that we're going to do. Now this is a very small quantity of butter, okay? So don't struggle to try and melt it into the icing sugar. And this, you don't need to follow it in steps by steps. It's okay, you can just put everything in all at once and mix it. Because it's not a recipe that you have to say, okay, I have to use this amount. I can change my amounts if I want. I'm going to use a bit of vanilla. Again, we need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And if you also want to add some cinnamon to this, you can. Now I'm going to add a bit of salted caramel, okay? And as I said, you can use any caramel that you want. I just tend to like this one a lot. So you can use 5, you can use 4, you can use 6 tablespoons, any amount that you want, depending on the taste you're going for. Let's see. I'm still shaky. Maybe by the next video I should be fine. I'm just going to use 4 today. And yes, my tablespoons are quite large. Okay. I need this one to use again. And we're going to add some milk. I need some couple tablespoons of milk, so I'm using my next measuring spoon. 1, 2. Now what I'm going to do, I am going to add first, check my consistency, and then if I think that I need more to make it the consistency I want, then I will add more. Okay, let's give it a little mix again. Oops. Some of the sugar is just jumping out of the bowl. Now do you see the consistency I'm getting here? Oh, nice. So this, I just added 3 tablespoons. I didn't add the full 5 or 6 as yet because I added 4 tablespoons and my caramel is not very, very thick. However, I do want to pour this over my cake, so I will add maybe another tablespoon. Just to make it pouring consistency. That should be fine. And I am going to use my whisk now and just give it a quick little whisk. You can take this. You can take this one. Okay. So now I'm using a whisk, small little whisk, just to whisk it in a bit, just to remove the little bits of lumps. Even though you sift the sugar, sometimes you still get that lumps in it. Now, do you see? This is the consistency that I am looking for. And by using the whisk, if you notice, my little lumps are disappearing. See? Now, if for some reason you've added too much milk and it's too runny, you can just add a bit of icing sugar again, okay? It's not the end of the world. You will be fine. It will taste just as good. Now, perfect. If I let this sit for a little bit, it is going to thicken up on me, right? So don't get scared if you think it's too runny. I'm going to remove these now. And I'm going to top my cake today with a little bit of chopped walnuts. Now, a little trick with walnuts. If you toast your nuts when you're using it, it enhances the flavor in your products. And it tastes so much nicer. So if you're going to toast this, you put it in the oven at 180 and pop it in for maybe 10 minutes. And then you let it cool down. Then you chop them up and use them. Toasted nuts are the bomb. Okay? Now I'm clearing my table as I go along. I'm still leaving some stuff there. Okay. Now, because our video is not going to be 2 hours long, I have pre-baked a cake already, and I'm going to show you how we unmold it and how we decorate it. Okay. Now I'm going to use a server, and I'll tell you first why. Sorry for ducking out, guys. I can't put too much things on my table. You won't be able to see anything I'm doing. Now, ideally, if you have to turn your cake out, and this is a finished cake here. See? If you're not going to put it on a server, you should turn it out on a rack, because you don't want to turn your hot cake out onto a plate. Because what happens is all that heat is just going to be there. There's no holes in your plate, and what happens is your cake can go bad very quickly. So if I'm turning it out on a rack, when you take the cakes out of the oven, let them sit in the tin for at least 10 to 15 minutes before removing it. Because what happens is if you try to remove the cake too hot, it's going to collapse on you. Okay? So 10 to 15 minutes, it comes out of the oven, and we turn. However, I want to put it on this one. My cake is already cooled, because I want to dress it up a little bit so you would see. So again, this one goes on. Strong hands, and you flip. Okay? Super easy. Take it out. You lift the pan off. Do you see? No sticking whatsoever. And I only use the spray. And here you have your nice Bundt cake with no problems. Okay? Now we're going to drizzle it a little with some of this topping that we've made. Now, do you see how it's taken up a bit? I can drizzle it with this if I want, or you can pop it into a piping bag if you want to be a perfectionist and have it dripping down nice and perfect. So you can use a spoon, you can use the whisk, you can also use a piping bag. Okay? What should we use? Should we use the whisk? Okay, let's use a spoon. So I'm going to take a spoon and just drizzle this one all over. And I'm just going to let it run down. If you want to cover the entire cake, what you can do is put it over the rack. I would not suggest putting it on your serving tray. so that all the excess can run straight off. So make sure you put it over a pan so you collect the excess. And you can put as much as this as you want on your cake. It is going to crust. You leave it to crust, it will dry and form a nice crust on it. Isn't it satisfying watching the caramel run down to the sides? I want to add a little more because I want to toss them with some nuts. Wow. So if you notice, I'm not like trying to go all the way down to the sides, because I'm putting it on the top, it's going to go on the sides on its own. Okay, if it's not going on the side, it means that your consistency is a little bit on the thick side. Okay, so you just add a little bit more milk to it. And now we want to add our toppings before it's crusted, because if it gets crusted, the toppings will not stick. Now feel free to try this cake using other fruits, for instance pears. You're using the same quantity. And pears are like the same consistency as apples. I think I'm going overboard with the topping. A little bit too much is not bad, when it comes to cake, that is. And here, guys, you have a finished product of our apple walnut bundt cake. Now, I do hope you've enjoyed our first session. We will be having more videos, and what we will be doing is we will be posting the recipes before and give you an option. Vote for which one you want. However, if there's something you want to see us make, feel free to message, feel free to DM, and then we can see what we can do. And thank you so much for everyone who baked along with us. Thank you to everybody who came in and viewed. Me being so nervous, my first video, I hope I did well. And I will try to answer as many questions as I see posted, guys. Okay? We will post the full video on our stories, and we will post the full recipe as well. If you don't see it, feel free to check us out. And for those who baked and want us, please tag us at Tavola Shop and let us see all your beautiful creations. We're looking forward to seeing what you did. Okay? Bye, guys. Someone is asking what it looks like from the inside. Let's see. Maybe we should cut it before we go. Now, I'm using a serrated knife, and the reason I'm using a serrated knife is because there are lots of chunks of apple in there. And can I have okay, hold on 1 second. Now I'm going to get my hands all gooey. Let's try to get a nice piece up here. And this is what our cake looks like on the inside for the person who just asked. Okay? So happy baking with you guys, and I will see you again soon. Bye.